Hi, I'm Caroline, welcome back. Today we're talking about poop. I talk about poop a lot with my puppy owners. They love to talk about poop, and this question of why does my dog eat poop comes up quite a lot with them. This is a really common problem for people with puppies, and it's not something necessarily that needs to be worried about, but we do find it really distressing when we see our dogs eating poop. We don't think of poop the same way as they do, so for us this is a really disgusting, horrible habit, but actually to a pup it probably just tastes good, and when they're hungry and they just fancy a wee nibble, awful as that sounds, it just satisfies that little bit of hunger and curiosity for a pup. Pups are really curious, they'll put anything in their mouths, they want to experiment with everything that's in their environment. So you know, it could be a bit of poop, it could be a stick or a leaf or a toy that you've given them. They just want to know what everything is. They're like sponges trying to learn everything about where they are and what can they play with, what can they eat, what can they touch, you know, what shouldn't they touch. So when they're in those very young ages, that's really how they're trying to experience their environment. So everything's going in their mouth. But the problem of eating poop can start much earlier than that. Pups will see their mom cleaning up their den when they're very tiny. In fact, even before then, it's a natural instinct for her. When she's looking after and caring for her pups, she's cleaning them, and that stimulates them to make their wees and poos. In order to keep the place clean and keep her pups clean, then she'll lick that and she'll eat that. That'll clean up the space and keeps her pups nice and healthy, and that's just instinctive for her. So as the pups start to grow up and become aware of their environment, they'll not need her to clean them to make them want to pee or poop. So they'll just be doing that naturally, but they'll be watching the way that she cleans the space and how she manages that problem, and they'll be curious about what she's doing, and they'll probably try to copy her as well. So at a very early age, they're starting to learn that actually maybe it tastes quite good. To dogs, taste is not really a very important sense. They're much more interested in the texture and the smell of food, but taste does come into it a little bit, and they'll not be repulsed by horrible smelling poop. It'll satisfy a little bit of hunger as well, and as they're growing, their nutritional needs will change quite frequently as they grow up. So it actually makes a bit of sense that sometimes they'll be hungrier than others. Some days their food won't provide quite enough nutrition, so on those days then they can seek other alternatives. And it doesn't have to be their own poop, of course. It could be the cat's poop, it could be another dog's poop, or another animal altogether that they might discover when they're out for a walk. So they're starting to form a little habit here, and what we tend to do when we see our dogs eating poop or about to eat poop is we can react quite strongly to that, because obviously we find it quite gross, that whole idea. So we'll react, we'll come running, we'll be going, no, don't do that. And all of the leave it commands and everything else, we'll be looking for treats and all that kind of stuff. And actually to your puppy, they might find that quite rewarding. So we might actually end up then almost teaching them and guiding them into this habit just by our own reaction. So if that's a thing that's maybe happened for you, then really rein that reaction back and try to take it in your stride a little bit as a part of your training program with your dog, because you don't want them to think it's quite rewarding, gets everybody's attention every time they go near a bit of poop, because they'll just do it more and more rather than less and less, which is actually what your aim is. So we talked about nutrition as well. So any dog at any age can have nutritional changes. So have a look at the diet, make sure that it's 100% complete diet. If you're concerned about their diet, they might not just be eating poop either. They might be looking at leaves or coal or plaster or very odd things. They might be really gravitating towards quite a lot. But if you are concerned about their diet, then it's always a good idea to take a wee trip to the vet, chat with them about your concerns, tell them about the poo eating and what you've tried to try and stop them from doing it, and they will be able to discuss your options with you with your diet. They might recommend a probiotic, they might recommend a different kind of dry food or a different type of diet altogether. So the vet's the person to speak to about that if you feel like there could be something nutritional or an underlying health condition as well, which could cause them to want to keep eating. Something that often doesn't get mentioned when we talk about eating poop as well is how they've responded to being toilet trained. If you've told your dog off for pooping or peeing in the house, at any stage, or maybe somebody else has, or if you've got a rescue dog, perhaps that happened to them in their past, then their instinct might be to try and clean that up before you come home, before you see it there, and they'll want to get rid of that poop so that they're trying to avoid getting told off again. So maybe if that's the case, have a wee look at that and see if there's anything that in your training you can do to sort of undo that and then move forward. But essentially for nearly all of this stuff, avoidance is the best cure. Teaching a dog to avoid eating poop is probably more hassle than it's worth. You know, try and keep the place clean, teach them a leave it command, teach them a good recall. So when you're out and about in the park, if you do come across something that your dog's interested in, you can just tell them to leave it and come away. But you wouldn't teach them a leave it command specifically for poo eating. You could teach them that to keep them safe from eating anything that's been left lying around. Chicken bones often get discarded, pizza boxes, anything like that. So it's a really useful command to teach your dog regardless of whether you have this problem or not, and always a good recall because you never know what could happen. So that would be my advice. Reduce the amount of attention they get whenever they are seen showing interest or eating the poop. Teach them a really good leave it command and a recall. If they are concerned they might get told off, look at other training methods that you're doing. Try and reduce the amount of sort of negative training and really work on that positive bond building kinds of training. And then if you're worried, go to your vet. They'll be able to give you loads of really good advice and get you past this. Most dogs, it's really not concerning. It doesn't do them any harm unless it becomes an extreme habit, and I see that very, very rarely. For most dogs, it's just opportunistic and a little bit of a habit. So hopefully that's helped, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.